Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and today I'm so thrilled to be joined by the wonderful Kola Bokinni to talk all about Ted Lasso season 3. And when you look at Isaac as a character and who he was when we first met him in season 1, and the immense growth that he's had over that time towards the end of season 3, I was interested in how you've really used the writing to kind of guide you over time just to continue making these incremental changes and growth, because I've heard you say that when you look at back to the beginning of him, that he was a character that had a lot of growing up to do, and he really has done that. So I was just interested in that journey for you.
Yeah, Isaac, when we first were introduced to him, wasn't the person that you know now. It was almost like they are two different people. When I first figured it out, it was just first season. I was just kind of figuring out who he is, and what he feels and what he thinks. And I believed that he was in need of a mentor. He was in need of someone to kind of point his compass in the right direction. And he got that through Roy and through Ted, because Ted had an effect on Roy, and which made Roy look around and spot people that kind of needed to be brought into the light a little bit. And that's why I said before, they're almost from the same cloth a little bit, with the rough and and look, almost a little bit sweet as well. You know what I mean? So when I look back and I look over the 3 seasons, I see like a boy, almost like with kind of childish traits, just wanted to mess about and not really have any goal apart from I want to play football, and I want to be a big shot, but that kind of still hid a little bit because he was just hiding behind Jamie, and he's also a big presence, so he was kind of hiding because he kind of probably had a self-esteem issues, and with the Lasso effect, kind of became the person that we all know and love, and not perfect, but still a person that you can depend on.
I mean, that's such a great point about in terms of him hiding a little bit and kind of not feeling the need to kind of put himself front and center early on, because there were other people with bigger personalities in the room to do that. And so did you find that when you looked at the page that was kind of the guiding force of really figuring out where is he going to be more internal as a character, where is he going to hold himself back, and where is he going to kind of find his voice a little bit more in that delivery, because he's not the first person to jump in and say something. He understands when to let everybody in the room speak before he chimes in as well.
Yeah, because he's quite a powerful character in the fact that he doesn't his power is not his articulation. He's not the most articulate person, but his power is his presence and how he uses his body. And I just wanted that to be a fundamental factor with Isaac, that he did think about what he said, because he was quiet most of the time, and kind of works with being a captain when you have such great listening skills, and you're able to just let people speak and voice their opinions and then summarize your own after that. That's why you see in the show when Isaac says something, it goes. There's no two ways about it. It's just that's the way it's gonna be. And he doesn't even need to, some of the people that are most powerful, they don't even need to say anything. It's just, they'll just give you a look and okay, we're going to do what you want to do. You know what I mean? And I've always grown up with a saying that the loudest person in the room is more times than not the weakest. Because the person that needs to talk and talk and talk and talk and and they don't really have any action, But a person that has few words but then you can see, that he's almost giving you an example to follow, because you can be a hypocrite, you can be, you can contradict yourself by saying a lot of stuff and almost forgetting the stuff you say and then doing a completely opposite thing from what or you can just, do the actions and then let it speak for itself. And I think Isaac's the latter. Yeah.
Did you find that also gave you a specific pacing to his delivery in terms of the way you worked with the dialogue? Because he also doesn't feel a need to kind of race through everything he's saying. He can be very specific and very deliberate with his words because he's being so concise and thoughtful about it.
Yeah, it goes back to think of it like any sort of like lion or bear or any sort of animal that has a lot of like power. Like they take their time, like they take their sweet time. And I think, because he's so adamant about whatever he's gonna wants to happen is for the best of the team, and overall will be best for everyone, and he's not going to sway from it. He can take his sweet time in his delivery, and also he's a footballer, so he's like he's not he's not going to be like a scientist or a politician, he just needs to do what's right for the team, and pretty much.
And he's so incredibly present for people when he's in conversation. He's very engaged, and it feels like, like you said, he's really attentive in terms of details, like the fact that he's able to spot that Roy and Keely have broken up before they've even said a word just by watching them. And so how did that translate into kind of the presence that you found yourself having in working on scenes with the rest of the cast, in kind of adopting and adapting that into yourself?
I mean, yeah. He speaks with his body, so he knows all about it. He is very intuitive when it comes to the reading of bodies, and kind of you pick up on certain energies and vibrations that your average person wouldn't even like when it comes to his job. When you think of a centre back, they spend the whole game reading bodies. Reading where the ball will be, so it's kind of like that helps, and to come from someone that doesn't really speak that much, but is always there. It makes a lot of sense that he can read body language like that. So when I say, it was quite funny when I read that the first time.
And speaking of him playing football, you used to play yourself, and so that's something that you've really been able to bring onto the show. But I've heard you say that it's actually more challenging to do choreographed scenes than to just go out and play a match, because you have to be so specific in terms of landing every single beat. And so what has been the difference for you in terms of playing on the show, where you're really choreographing and you're telling a story about your character instead of just going out there and playing a game?
Oh, one, because you have to act as well, so it's almost like you're doing two jobs. Two, like when you're filming a football scene, it's very stop-starty. In football, it's just one thing going on, 45 minutes, a break in between, and then you're done. In Ted Lasso, we'd be on the pitch for like, well, if you take out like breaks, 8-9 hours at a time, and you're wearing boots and all that, and you have to keep limber because you could get an injury. That's where the difficulty part of it. And then on top of that, you gotta be good, and you got to show the emotion of you've just lost 8 games in a row, or you got to show the emotion of it's the 91st minute in extra time, and if we score this, we've won, whatever. you know, it's that's where it becomes difficult, because when it's choreographed, if one thing goes wrong, then you have to start again, and you don't want to start again. You don't.
And in terms of kind of the way that he shows up for the rest of the team, you know, you were just mentioning there that sometimes the storyline is you've lost 8 games in a row, and Isaac's someone who really absorbs a lot of that responsibility internally for you. And so going into the 3rd season and having that storyline where all of these external voices, everyone around them, there's so much public pressure, there's pressure from the fans, and everyone's basically saying, you know, you keep losing, you're going to come dead last in the league, you know, this is terrible. For you, what was the impact that you wanted that to have on Isaac as someone who really kind of carries the responsibility of that a lot as the captain?
He's a sponge, you know. He soaks up, you know, other people's pain and as well as his own. And when, you know, when things are not going well with the team, he almost, you know, takes sole responsibility sometimes, and believes that it's because he's not performing well, or he's not doing well. And, you know, football is a confidence sport, as well as a lot of things in life, you know, where we are so, you know, in our heads, you know, that we can't get out of our own way, you know. So sometimes, you know, your worst enemy and your best friend is right here, you know, and you know, the person, your conscience, the person inside your head can make you see, think, smell, you know, remember fake memories. You know, I've read someone the other day that if your mind doesn't want to do something, it will create false and scenarios to deter you from doing what is that you plan to do. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, it could be something as trivial as going to the gym. Your mind will create something like, oh, because then it will hurt, because then, you know, it will, and then it will make you feel, you know, the pain, that because it doesn't want to, because it's trying to protect you. It's, trust me, it's crazy if you read into it. So yeah, so as you said, you know, yeah, it's crazy, mad.
One of my favorite scenes as well this season was just watching how far things escalated in the match against West Ham after they've watched the video of Nate destroying the Believe sign at halftime. And I imagine that must have also been a really fun scene to film, just in terms of really being able to let loose. And so for you, you know, where did you kind of find the line of like, how far can I take this in the way that Isaac's responding in this moment?
You know, the playbook, everything was out the window when we got onto that field. We just wanted blood. You know, there was no thought process going towards it. He was just absolutely betrayed. You know, filming that, it was painful. I'd say that because yeah, I don't know if you've had, you know, someone step on your foot when they're wearing cleats. It is not the nicest feeling. It is so painful. So a lot of that happened. My feet did take a battering. But other than that, like, you know, stuff like we have hilarious, like there's a bit in it that they kept in, and it's when I literally pick up Stefan, which is Richard. I just picked him up because I just thought in that situation that's what Isaac would do. And they kept it in, so that was funny. That was a bit of improv. That was funny. It's just all of it was majority of his improv. Like when I threw Sam Cox, who's one of the West Ham players, on the floor. It was a fun day. It was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of aggression. It was a lot of aggression, you know, getting thrown out of there. Yeah.
And when it came to the scene where everybody reveals the piece of the Believe sign that they've been holding on to and they put it back together, for Isaac, I noticed like he takes it from his captain armband. And for you, is that something that he had just been keeping there every single match, every single game, and that it just happened to be the moment for him?
Of course. It's you know, everyone's safe, sacred place, you know what I mean? But I thought about it, Jason and them were like, think of a place where Isaac would keep it, and I thought we're better than there, to be with him all the time, and a big part of his life, a big milestone of his life was becoming captain. So there's no better place I could think of at the time, to be honest, and I'm just glad that it reiterated on the screen, and it was it was a very touching moment. That was one of the in the finale episode. That was one of the moments where that got me going a little bit, because it was really, really touching, actually, to be honest. And we all watched it together, and we all had like a almost like a movie night, but for the finale episode, we all got a little room, and then all of us in the whole cast was there, and it was just like so sad, but also so like happy, like really bittersweet, but also like so amazing to have spent this time with these people and got to know them.
I love that, and speaking of touching moments in that episode as well, the performance of So Long Farewell that you all did was really beautiful, and you've got such a lovely singing voice. And I wanted to ask about just the journey and the process of filming all of that and choreographing it, because I imagine there was so much preparation, even just in terms of recording the vocals before you're filming it on the day, and having to choreograph out the dance and the movement with everyone to then kind of carry that onto the pitch to do in front of Ted in that scene.
I found out, like, the day before we went to rehearsals for that number. I found out that I was gonna do the opening bid with Tahib, and I just thought to myself, just go in there and do the best you can do, and just see what happens. Because I've always thought that, I thought, if you go in there and you do your best, then you can at least say that you tried. And if it doesn't work out, you tried. And if it does work out, well, that's great. And I've always tried to implement that in my life. And, with Tom Howe and all these amazing people that do the music, it was easier than I thought it would be. The rest of the guys were amazing because, all I do is sing a little bit and then walk and then watch them do their dancing. So they had a lot more to do than me. So yeah. But they all were amazing, and it all worked out pretty well, man. Because I watched it and I was like, wow, that's actually quite good.
And I also wanted to talk about Isaac's friendship with Colin, and particularly the way that a lot of that played out in this season, and just kind of starting from that moment where Isaac first sees the pictures on Colin's phone and realizes that he's gay, and his response kind of goes back to that internalization where he just kind of shuts off and walks away, because we as an audience don't know the reason behind his response at that point. It doesn't come out till a little bit later. And so what was that like for you in terms of how you wanted to approach those scenes and kind of respond, knowing where the episode was going, but knowing that the audience wouldn't be keyed into that until later on?
It was, for one, it was amazing to be able to do it with Billy Harris, and Isaac and Colin have been, a tag team partnership throughout this whole series, but you never really got to see like behind the curtain as much as I would have wished. So to be able to do that with one of my best mates in real life, Billy, was amazing, because it was so effortless. There was no pretending to it, and in that moment where Isaac done that, like, it kind of taught me like you never know, like the full story. You only know your own full story. You don't know other people's full story. You don't know why people react to certain things. So it kind of taught me a little bit to kind of have a little bit more patience with people, and and not like just off the bat judge and just, you know, make a snap judgment and be like, yeah, Isaac done that because he's homophobic, not because, you know, he's still wrong in the way he addressed the whole situation. And I have never said that he's not wrong. I just said that, you know, people aren't perfect, and when it comes to people that are close to certain people's hearts, everything is different. It's all blurred lines because, you know, people, especially even in your family, you know, where they can say one thing and it can trigger you, you know, that if I said it to you, you'd be like, huh. But if they say it, you'd be like, what do you mean by that? Do you know what I mean? Like that, you know what I'm saying? There's always a second meaning. So it's like, so Isaac, he walked away because a person that he's known his entire life didn't tell him something that is so important to him, which is he's wrong because it's not about Isaac. But as I said earlier, we as human beings have a way of making ourselves the main character, you know, and it's we can't help it, but it's just the way we are wired, you know, to make ourselves the main character in any scenario when you're not, you know, you're just there for support. So, you know, but, you know, instead of saying something that he might have regretted or probably would have regretted, he chose to walk away, which was probably worse. But he has an amazing friend in Colin that is so understanding that, you know, it works out in the end.
Mm-hmm. And when he goes into, you know, they're heading into halftime at the match, and there's the fan that shouts something out, and then Isaac ends up in a physical altercation that he initiates at that point. You know, I love the fact that Roy's the one kind of sitting with him afterwards. And again, for you, was that just another example of like kind of how much Isaac really internalizes? Because it felt like he was his biggest critic and biggest judge in that moment, and it was about his kind of inability in that moment to forgive himself for what he knows he's just done.
Yeah, because he's so disappointed in himself. He's come such a long way, and to do that is like he's learned nothing. You know, he in that moment, he feels almost like, you know, a kid, like a 12-year-old boy that is just, you know, said some stuff to his and then stomped upstairs and, you know, I'm leaving or whatever, like, you know what the kids do. In that moment, he's so disappointed in himself, and the only person that could actually understand Isaac is Roy Kent, because he's almost, you know, Isaac and Roy, they have a lot of similarities, you know, and, you know, it just shows the development of Roy Kent, you know, as well as everyone else, that, you know, Roy can choose to be the one to bring Isaac back and show him what he needs to do, you know, because Roy's made those mistakes before, and then you can see the path that Isaac's going, and, you know, he basically says to him, you're gonna crash if you don't slow down and look around, you know what I mean? And yeah, just doing that scene with Brett was, you know, a lot easier than it should have been. I'm sorry about that. My iPad died. So yeah, what was I saying? I was saying that Roy, basically, he was the best person to. Yeah, but he was probably the only person. He was the only person that Isaac would actually like listen to in that situation, because if someone else came in there, he probably would have told him to get the fuck out and leave. But he can't really say that to Roy because, you know, he's Roy Kent. You know what I'm saying? So I think the best and only person was that could enter that boot room there, and Isaac listened to them truly, was was Mr. Ken.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. And I also really love the moment where it's you and Colin, you know, you're getting to play alongside Billy again, and Isaac has shown up at his house and they've kind of reconciled. And then it's just the two of them playing video games. And, you know, even the fact that Isaac's like asking him questions and kind of giving him space to tell him more about who he is, and a side of himself that Isaac hasn't known yet, was really beautiful. But especially the way that Isaac can't say the words "I love you," but he basically says "I love you" to him. And so for you, was that kind of another signifier of just the amount of growth that this character has gone on, that, you know, he's expressing himself that way to one of his best friends?
Yeah, because, you know, stereotypically, a person who is Isaac in real life, you know, they might react differently to that news. And for Isaac to react that way, I was very proud of him and of the person and the character that he's become, in the way that he, you know, is so understanding and, you know, is learning, but also he's willing to learn. You know, he wants to know this stuff. He's curious. You know, that's why when they're playing FIFA, he's asking those questions, because he's genuinely curious. He's not asking them for any sort of banter or any sort of like, you know, just to make conversation. He's asking them questions because he wants to know. You know, he wants to know more about, you know, how his best mate lives. You know, and you know, I thought it was a really beautiful moment, to be honest, playing FIFA as well.
It was. And when it came to filming the kind of final team scenes in the locker room, where everybody's standing there and watching video footage that came from the show, but also included footage of moments that you'd all had off camera together as well. And even just standing at the sidelines before the game, where they're all in tears before the match. What was the experience of filming scenes like that, and really just in the moment being able to channel the emotions that you were all experiencing yourselves into it?
Yeah, it was quite emotional as well, because, you know, we knew that we were coming to the end of season 3, and we were feeling all the emotions, and you know, when you see that video or that montage of all of us over the last 4 years, they genuinely played that for us, and there was a lot more, you know, memories in that video than it made in the final cut, and you know, it made us genuinely tear up and start crying. And it was such a solemn set. Like, it was completely silent, and there was 70-80 people on that set. It was completely silent apart from the video that was playing on several monitors, and everyone was just sitting there watching it, and it made you get like this ball in your throat, you know, because you realize how much you've been and done together, and you know, you look back on it, and it was like one of the most beautiful videos I've actually watched before, you know. And I'm 30 years old. I've watched a few videos, but it was such a beautiful scene. And the way that they put it all together in the end, I was really, really happy.
It's so beautiful to hear. And I love everything that you've done with Isaac in making him a character that has grown and changed so much from who we met at the beginning of season 1, and everything that you've done throughout the 3 seasons. So thank you so much, Kola. I really appreciate it.
Your pleasure. You know, thank you. You know, I just feel so lucky that I'm able to play Isaac, and you know, and it be there for the world to see.